to the social media derby. For those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video and share it if you can. And as always, if you have any comments or you want to discuss anything that we're talking about, please leave a comment down below. For those of you listening on Spotify, Apple, or any other podcasting platform, as always, please follow and give us a 5-star review if you can. It really helps us get more people's eyes and ears, I guess, onto the show. All right, well, let's get into the next game, obviously. Just for everyone that's listening and watching, I messaged Ant after these games and kind of like, getting him up for the Liverpool game, trying to say, what are you going to do? You're going to help us out in the race. What are you going to do, mate? And he basically gave me short 2-word answers. I'm dead inside. It's over. I thought something like major in his life had changed. I thought he was talking about something completely different at that point because it sounded, very defeatist. But you were done with it by the end of that game. So let's get into that game. Obviously, very quick overview. To be honest with you, very even game. Man United and Liverpool actually looked like they were roughly on the same level. It wasn't crazy one-sided either way. Liverpool are obviously dominating kind of the first portions of the game. And Luis Diaz goes and gets a goal. Every single time I put him in my FPL, he never scores. I put Salah in my FPL now. He's doing nothing until he gets a penalty. And somehow Luis Diaz scores. Shocking marking. I'm gonna have to say that. We'll get into it a little bit later, but not good marking to just let him run off, basically. Casemiro just falls over for no reason. And then, I don't know, Kwanzaa, mate, you are young, I get it, but your ass is falling out as well. And Bruno just managed to smash one past old Kelleher. Nothing he can really do about that, not really his fault. And then it becomes the Mainu show. And he does a very reminiscent goal of the Makeda goal, right? I can't remember who it was against, but he did the Makeda goal where he kind of just turns around, barely looks at the goal and smashes it top corner. To get you back to 1-1, or I guess not 1-1, sorry, to 2-1.
2-1, yeah.
And then again, your asses fall out, and Wan-Bissaka gives a penalty away. And to be honest with you, in contrast to Chelsea, Salah and Liverpool are not a bad team to give a penalty away to, because they put some graphics up of his penalty record. Good Lord. Shocking. And I'm talking about that from the perspective of having Saka in my team. He misses a penalty every now and then. But my God, Salah's penalty record is absolutely disgracia. But he manages to score it. Onana doesn't seem to be really very good at penalties, generally speaking. And then from there, kind of the game, I think Liverpool are getting on you a little bit from there, but, you managed to hold out to the end. Let's get on to the first one, right? We've talked enough about penalties. Let's talk about Mainu, mate. First goal, is it his fault?
Yeah. So to get back to what I said earlier, Redknapp was waffling. That was Mainu's fault. And I get it. That may not have been his instruction to man mark. Who was it? Diaz. It was Diaz, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Diaz.
Yeah.
And the reporter at the end of the game obviously was asking him questions about it, which is a bit stupid, isn't it? He's obviously not going to say, I've effed up completely.
Yeah.
And was more alluding to what Redknapp was saying, that, it wasn't his job to mark Diaz. But just take ownership. He's your man. Like, what are you doing? Follow him. Like, and there's this ball watching that our defenders have been culpable of for seasons now. It's not a Ten Hag problem, because Wan-Bissaka's been one of the worst players at it. When people say he's so good defensively, I've always said he's good one-on-one. You can't say he's good defensively, because that means he's like really good at positional play, smelling danger, doing the right decisions, marking, all the other things that are part of defending, which Wan-Bissaka is not good at, by the way. And he was the number one culprit for not, picking up his man. Or drifting in too soon, or not, following his runners.
Yeah.
And Mainu did not. He just allowed Diaz to peel off him, and then he does well to finish it. To be fair, but Mainu, I said it in. I think I said it to you, and I said it in that Man U group chat I talked about earlier. That was probably his worst half, because I know people hammer him for the West Ham mistake, but the ball rolled under his foot. I don't think he played badly in that game. He made one error, which sadly led to a goal. That first half against Liverpool, He was not good.
So
And you
that's an
said Gary
interesting
Neville
point.
was on him, and I
Yeah,
think actually
Gary
Gary
Neville
Neville was
was
fair.
rinsing him, and it kind of seemed like he was rinsing Ten Hag through him, really, because he was like, positionally, why are you so high up all the time? I know you're doing that, but why? There's a massive gap behind him. So I guess that's my question: is do you think it's down to Mainu specifically, right? Because obviously we talked about it's not his, maybe not his job to follow that man, maybe that somebody else is supposed to follow him. But as you said, accountability, you got to go after it if you see there's a problem or a gap, right? Do you think his performance in the first half is just on him, or do you think that again it's maybe a Ten Hag thing, it's part of the system, and it's just not clear? Maybe the tactics given.
No, I think G Nev's point on the being so high up makes sense. That's 100% a Ten Hag thing because I don't believe that's him doing it of his own accord.
Mm.
And when Mainu's not in that position, the other midfielders that play there do the same thing. McTominay does that as well.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not a Mainu thing. And the corner thing, I've obviously just said I think he should take ownership. I think he should follow the man. But at the same time, I'm going to give him an out because he's a young player. I don't expect young players to know all of these things. If that was Amrabat, I'd be on to him. I already am kind of. I'm saying go back to Fiorentina.
Yes.
But I would have been on to him just for that. Whereas with Mainu, I kind of allow him the same way I allow Garnacho when he's a bit frustrating attacking wise and he doesn't make the right decisions or overdoes things or whatever. You kind of just got to roll with it, don't you? Because they're young. Hopefully, you expect them to grow and learn and kind of develop those kind of innate skills. But at the same time, it's obviously disappointing, and I'm not going to absolve him of any blame for that corner because I don't give a flying shit if that we're playing a different marking system where it's not his man. That is his man because he's on him. So once you've decided that, don't let the guy run off you. Simple. But I'm not going to kill him for it, and luckily I didn't go really hard on him because second half Mainu was class, and he was probably our best player. And he fought back and bounced back unbelievably in the second half. And I wonder whether it was him motivating himself or Ten Hag, lit a firework up his. But whatever it was, he came out absolutely smashing it. He was unbelievable in the second half. Yeah,
and he obviously goes and scores that goal, which we've got to talk about there, right? Obviously, very, very reminiscent of Makeda. Makeda didn't end up turning out to be very much for you guys in the end. Scored a couple of important goals, of course, but never really went on from there. What has Mainu got to do? I know it's a hard question, but what has Mainu got to do to ensure that that is not him and that he continues to be an important part of this team?
It's probably the obvious stuff, isn't it? But I mean, it comes down to your character. It comes down to your chances. I think Makeda was. I'm not going to blame him 100% because at the time, the team that he was trying to break into had superstars. It's not easy for a youngster to break into that team. I don't know how many youngsters we had break into that team. Let's be real. Like this was when Ronaldo was in his mid-20s. It wasn't a young Ronaldo. We didn't really have loads of young players kind of joining the team at that time. So I'm not going to hammer him too much. But obviously, you're right. He didn't turn out to be what some people had hoped when he was kind of dubbed a wonder kid. I think it's a blessing and a curse to be in the position that we're in because this is kind of the position we were in when Rashford broke through. This was the same position that you guys were in when Saka, Smith Rowe, and your current crop of really good, young. They're not really youngsters anymore, but you know what I mean. Like early to mid-20s guys broke through was when you guys were absolutely mudded. So it's the same thing happening to us now. We've obviously got Garnacho, who's, I think he's our most important attacking player. He might not be the best to look at compared to the Rashfords or, the other players when they're on song. But this season, if Garnacho's not humming, if he's not, doing something for the team, we're out here struggling. And he doesn't always make the right decision. Like I said earlier, he's frustrating sometimes, but he's come through clutch more times for us than some of our experienced players. So I have to call him out for that. But yeah, Garnacho coming through, Mainu coming through, Højlund's still really young. I wanted to give a shout out to Kambuela as well. Kambuela, he was unbelievable. Like you might not think he was like standout, but I don't think our defense suffered having him in there. I would have him in there.
True.
Like if we had injuries, I would have him in there without. I was saying this already in other chats and whatever. I think I said it to you. Just ride out the youngsters now until the end of the season. I've had enough. I've said it. I'm dead inside. I don't. I want to feel alive again. So just play the youngsters. Play Hoyland. Play Garnacho. Play Mainu. Play Kambwala. Play Ahmad. Please God, play Ahmad. Like what does he have to do to get some bloody minutes?
What's happened to him now, man?
I think Antony was harshly done by to not start this game because of how well he was, because of how well he played against Chelsea. But if you're gonna not play him, put bloody Ahmad in. For God's sake, give him a chance. But my point is play the youngsters, and then you'll see a lot more. I reckon you'll see even more sprouts. Because to be honest, we're not seeing sprouts from this style of play thing, which we'll get onto in a minute. But we are seeing sprouts from our youngsters, because that Mainu goal was world class. Like I don't I know we Man U fans have been guilty of hyping players for as long as time as this, but this Mainu thing, and we talked about it, and you were questioning my hype train early doors, as was a lot of people, but he's the real deal, man. I don't know what he'll become. I'm not gonna say that because that's ridiculous, but as a first team player in this Man United team going forward, he's nailed on. He's nailed on. He's going to play every single game if he's fit.
Yeah,
and I think it's justified. It's like Casemiro, flog him ASAP, please God. At this point, I'll take a pack of McCoys for him. Whatever, get him out of here. Absolutely disaster class.
Get
2
me
in
a
a row.
pack of Quavers, mate. Get me a pack. Yeah, no,
I don't even like
Quavers.
Quavers.
The place up,
I'll take Quavers. I'll take Space Raiders. I'll take anything you can give me, mate, to get Casemiro out of it. Because the last 2 games, all time smelly.
Boy.
Yeah. Chelsea, he was falling all over the shop everywhere. Useless, couldn't string 2 passes together. In this Liverpool one, in the second half, I thought he was playing for them. He did not pass it one time to our player. And then at the end, he just lost his head and started doing like crazy tackle. That one on Luis Diaz at the end.
Yeah.
Like he just absolutely lost his rocker. So get him out of here. Play Mainu. Get me a couple of midfielders in the summer, and hopefully we'll actually have one. Right now we don't have a midfield. So yeah.
Well, overall, I mean that's a great point, right? You don't really have a midfield, so I want to get onto that. I think it was on the Super Sunday match day earlier. I was watching it just after I woke up. They were talking about it, and they had like an exclusive interview with Ten Hag, and he was asked the question of, "Do you have a style?" It's been made, it's been said in the media that he doesn't. No one can really see a style coming out of him, and I think he was quite just in general in his media appearances recently. He's been very defiant, right? Like, we are great, we're positive, we have a style. And he was very clear to say, we have a style, we want to be dominant in and out of possession, and we want to play out from the back. My question to you is, mate, is he talking out of his ass again? Or is that true?
All right, so he's half talking out of his ass and half he's true. So that's why I've conveniently dubbed him Eric Fivehag. Because half of it's true and half of it's because I get the pressing high up stuff and being aggressive when he talks about that. I see that. But only our attacking unit do that. There is no midfield. And then our defensive, we've suddenly got a defensive low block. And I'm not going to bore everyone because I talked about it last week. We've talked about it ever since, like, I think Carragher did a deep dive on Monday Night Football, whatever, and pointed out the Grand Canyon size hole in our midfield. That is what he's doing. I'm trying to be a bit more understanding in that he's obviously got data, and I've talked about it before, that supports this idea. But logically, it makes no sense, and you can't do it. So long term, sort yourself out. Find your other 5 Hags and come up with one consistent style of play that actually works and where you don't have 2 completely disconnected units on the pitch.
Yeah.
Because that attacking unit, I like it. We've scored many goals where our attacking unit has suffocated and pressed people even against Liverpool in the FA Cup, our first goal comes that way, and a lot of chances that I think we should have scored from come that way, and we've done it a few times in other games, but there's no midfield after that. So if we are not successful doing that, which to be honest, high pressing, ultra aggressive football, the percentages of success are not high. We're not talking about like a 50% success rate. We're talking about like a 15 to 20% success rate. So the other 80%, you're completely exposed, which is why we're facing all these shots. And I've talked about it again, so I'm blue in the face. So yeah, if you want to call this a style of play and you want to say that this is the way that you want to play, then boy, we've got problems, not only with the player, we've got big problems with the manager as well. But he's the part he's waffling about is the low block part, and like you can't say we're 100% a style of play based on just our attacking unit. Our defensive unit says otherwise. All of those dons are camped in a low block in our defense, trying to block shots, and they're encouraging shots. So. That part of what he's saying, he's unfortunately for myself and Man U fans, I can't be backing that. He's talking absolute shit. But for the attacking unit, fair dues. I get it, and people can't deny that our attacking unit does do that. The problem is it's defensive. There is no midfield unit that doesn't exist. Number one, which is a bit worrying, and then number two, our defensive unit are scared shitless of the ball over the top and having to defend space. So yeah, I can't see how a manager's going to make this work.
Well, so here, I think my point, before we move on, obviously, because we've got other things to talk about, but the point I'll make is, you have one of the lowest goals scored records in the league, right? Like it's not good, and it's part of the reason why your goal difference is so bad. But I think the reason for that is, most of your goals have actually come in this latter part of the season, or not latter part of the season, but more recently, right? They weren't there from the very beginning. I don't think you had figured out what that attack looked like. And I kind of feel like Ten Hag fell backwards into a style that he didn't realize was going to be there, right? Like, I don't think he can say he's consistently had that style from the beginning of the season to the end of it. I think this was probably in the last maybe 15 game weeks, he's figured out this style that Jamie Carragher went through of like high pressing from the attack and then just low block from the defense, right? And obviously it's partly because of injuries, I understand, but I don't think he can come out and say we have a clear style, because it seems to me like he has just stumbled upon a style that is managing to get him goals, but at the same time still conceding a lot of goals as well. So I don't think he can say with so much confidence and to be so defiant to all of the, the people talking to him, that they have a clear style and they've had one and it's to do this and it's to do that, because I don't think we've seen it throughout the whole season. And I don't think you could even say really you played like this last season either. So it's kind of like he's switching styles, which again, injuries might come into the picture with that one, because you have to do with what you've got. But at the same time, like, he hasn't been consistent. I can say for other managers, Gary O'Neill's a great example. And obviously they're smaller sample sizes now, but these are managers that you've seen a more consistent style over a long period of time. Even when injuries came, they still were doing that style, and maybe they're not as good, but they're still doing it, right? De Zerbi's a great example as well. He's still trying to do it at Brighton. It's just not working out for him when he's got Ferguson injured, João Pedro injured, Matoma injured, Solly March, and all these other guys, right? So obviously the execution of the style is a bit worse, but there's still a consistent style across all of it. And I think that's where Ten Hag needs to give his head a wobble and say, I understand why people are telling me I don't have a clear style, because I'm switching left and right every 5 minutes based off of the injuries, which I don't think, generally speaking, is the right way to behave. I think you should be training all of your players and giving all of them experience in the style that you want, right? Not just saying, oh, he can't play it, so I'm never going to let him play it. No, keep making Maguire do those things, right? Yes, he's looked a little bit more solid, but mate, you're going to flog him anyway. Just try it. Or, as you said, sack him off and get Kambwala in, because I think Kambwala is fast enough to play balls, to defend balls behind him. So what I'm saying is, like, he doesn't have to do what he's doing. He's chosen to do what he's doing because he thinks he's made the decision for his team. They can't do it, which I think, as a manager, is the wrong way to go about it. It's, Ange Postecoglou when he's got bloody... I don't know who even had like Skip or whoever it was when he was just like rife with injuries. He was just saying whoever he wants, just you're going to have to play that way. Sorry, mate. Typical mate type thing. But anyway, let's go on to my I guess my very last point before we move on to the Arsenal games, Ant. Top 4 still alive? Dead? What are we saying?
Mate, this horse is dead. We've talked about this. Don't bring this up again on any more future podcast weeks of this season. It's dead. We're not getting top 4. We're scraping 6 now, to be honest, because now Newcastle and West Ham won in this game. We can have closed the gap down, so we're holding on to 6th. The only outside chance is Villa are looking ropey, man. They're doing some weird stuff. So if we can get anything and we fluke 5th and that becomes a Champions League spot, I'll kind of be angry if we do that because we don't deserve it. And but at the same time, we need the money and we need Champions League for many reasons. So I'll have to put my anger to the side. But yeah, no, I hear you. The
last thing I'll say on that is it actually might solve a problem for Ineos though. If you guys don't get into it, just is it OG, is it Nice that he owns? Whoever it is, just let them get into Champions League or into European football and you lot can just jog on. No worries.
No, that stuff,
whatever it is.
That stuff's rubbish because if they make him do that, they've allowed RB Leipzig, they've allowed like City and their teams in. So that's not realistic, is it? If we both got in the Champions League, we'd be fine. They've let us in. But we stink. We're not getting top 4. Let's just hold on to 6th. And I said it to you on the chat. If we can get 6th and win the FA Cup, you know what? This season has been an all-time stinker. But if we can do that and I can get to see the youngsters play more ball than, some of our washed players that we need to sell, I'll find some sprouts. It would be like you guys finishing 8th, and you seeing something decent from the team. That's how it will feel for me. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, like if your all-time stinker season is coming 6th and winning a trophy, then everyone else is in the mud. Because when Chelsea are in their all-time stinkers, they're finishing bloody 12th or 10th or whatever it is. Page 2 type dons, and we're in 8th consistently. So you should count your lucky stars that if that's a stinker of a season, mate.
Come on, anyway,
big
club, isn't it? Big club. There's levels.